AdvoKAYte, holding healthcare accountable. This podcast is my way of sharing what I've learned about the mistakes, the cover-ups, and the ways we can all protect ourselves. We're all in this together. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of AdvoKAYte. Kaylee Dion Pear is back with us again for this episode. She said she had so much fun before putting me on the hot seat and making me the guest and you the host that she just wants to do more of the same.
It's so much fun. But you're so good at being in the hot seat, so
we
got to do this more often.
Yes, well, lawyers love to be put under oath and questioned, but I think what I'm going to refer to this is another episode of Beauty and the Beast. Because, you know, we're like, I could be your mother or your grandmother, I think.
Well, you're not a beast by any way.
Well, thank you.
But you're a boss lady in the courtroom, so that's what we'll say.
Mature, shall we say, a more mature version. I joke with you because we're about the same size.
We are.
And we're both a little feisty.
Oh, yeah.
We're both fun-sized and feisty.
Yeah, we were perfect before everybody else. So that's, you know, we didn't have to grow anymore. That's kind of what I say.
That's right.
But, you know, I've really enjoyed being on this journey with you, and the podcast, I think, is really, really amazing. So I do think having these where we can go back and look at some of the episodes that have already gone out and take a deeper dive and have you talk more about it, because, you know, a lot of this is you interviewing them and giving them the place to kind of talk. But this is, I want your reactions to these.
Yeah, for sure. And I realize sometimes I'm talking industry language and we're talking to each other, the expert that I have on the show, but I don't drop back enough to explain, like, well, what does that mean? What are we talking about?
So this one's going to be about Chad Erickson and Barry Howell, the founders of Texas Best Docs. Yeah. And they were on the podcast, and I really think what they are trying to create is pretty amazing. And so I went ahead and found 3 or 4 clips that I thought were really important moments that I wanted you to expand on what you meant when you were kind of talking with them. So let's go ahead and roll that first clip right now.
I personally just think that, of course, doctors have a right to privacy or whatever, but we're not giving patient names. Why not? No. Well, Dr. A tends to have more post-operative complications than Dr. B. And so therefore if I had a choice, I'd choose Dr. B.
Yeah, and I really wanted you to kind of dive into this because I do think that is so alarming. We don't have a choice. We don't even get to see anything.
Right.
So kind of dive into what you meant by that.
Well, this is one of my pet peeves. You know, if you go look at Consumer Reports, well, people used to look at magazines. Remember those days?
Oh, yeah.
And every issue they go into, well, this time we're going to do a deep dive on washing machines. And you'd get, oh, well, here's the GE, here's the Samsung, you know, what's the motor failure? Does this one grow mold in the drum? Or, you know, whatever, automobiles, things of that nature. And in my opinion, we really need something like that for doctors. Now, who knows the equivalent about doctors? So the equivalent of a Consumer Reports on doctors. Hospitals know. Hospitals study these things, and they keep this data. And so, for example, there are certain things that hospital follows. Let's just take a typical example of a spine surgeon. They're going to want to know what is the estimated blood loss for this surgeon. They know, by way of example, let's just say that for most spine surgeries, the estimated blood loss for the patient associated with that procedure should not exceed 50 milliliters. But, and they've got 10 spine surgeons operating at their facility. And they've got, this doctor averages 25, this doctor averages 10, 15, 35, or whatever. Whoa, why is this doctor over here averaging 150? That's an outlier. Huh, maybe that raises a red flag. Maybe this is surgical technique problem, etc. Why? So why is why is doctor number 10 out of these 10 having so many post-operative complications? And then we have a list of those: post-operative infection, for example, a hardware failure, the hardware didn't get set right, or a screw was malpositioned. They had to go back to the emergency room. They woke up with new neurologic conditions, a foot drop or something like that that they didn't have before. And so how do our doctors compare to one another, and who's kind of within the industry standard, so to speak, who's within the safe zone, and who's the outlier, and why? And then that should initiate what's called a peer review action, where they would pull random charts, or if there was an incident that hurt a patient, they would pull that chart, and they would presumably it's like a jury of your peers, and they review it. Is this doctor safe or not? That's the hospital's obligation. So what I am preaching to the choir about on this is the hospitals know who their safest surgeons are, by way of example, with the best outcomes, and who are the worst. And they also know, along the line of who's the worst, who's dangerous and who should you avoid. So, patients are smart. We're not dumb. We're not stupid. We can figure this stuff out. So publish. Here's the national average. Here's the average at our hospital for our doctors. And here's our 10 doctors. And here are the averages for these doctors. So me as a patient, let's say I'm going in to have spine surgery, I can compare 3 hospitals and I can go, whoa, why does this hospital have, their spine surgeons have a lot more post-operative infections than this hospital? I'm going to this other hospital. Or I'm choosing a surgeon. I would want to avoid this guy or gal at all costs, and I would want to choose this doctor who has the least amount of blood loss, the least amount of post-operative complications, the least amount of hardware failures. And I, as an intelligent person, can make an intelligent decision.
Is that information currently available to patients that the hospitals know and do the studies and everything, or no?
It is not only not available to patients, it's not available to medical malpractice lawyers when we're in.
So what is it for then?
It's for hospitals who have an obligation to police their doctors and make sure that the doctors on their staff are safe. So it reminds me of that form for internal use only. That's what it's for, and they have many hard legal protections. I mean, in a medical malpractice case, if I subpoenaed that information, that would get shot down in a heartbeat. Completely private.
Wow.
Yeah.
That just seems like it shouldn't be allowed.
It shouldn't be allowed. There's also a whole nother set of information about doctors that is completely, by law, top secret. And that's the information contained in the National Practitioner Data Bank, which is where, let's keep rolling with this example. Let's say this mythical doctor number 10, who has much more blood loss in his or her surgeries, post-operative infections, hardware failures, all kinds of terrible things. And a hospital decides, this doctor's dangerous. We are removing his privileges from this hospital, and we're reporting that to the National Practitioner Data Bank so that he or she, the next hospital down the line, is warned and perhaps won't put him on staff. I'd like to know that too as a patient. I'd like to know, has my doctor been run off from a prior hospital and why? But doctors are a protected class in our society. And sadly, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Wow. That's just wild. I want to talk about the next clip now. So if we could go ahead and run that clip, that's just crazy.
Get recommendations from friends, family members, church members, whoever your circle of trust is. Reach out to them and ask questions.
And if you know a nurse, the nurses know all.
They do.
That's the one. That's what we used to say in trial. The bailiff knows. Ask the bailiff.
Yeah.
You know, the bailiff knows everything. So I would say in this setting, if you know a nurse, ask a nurse.
Yeah, I want you to go in. I want you to talk about that. The nurse.
Yeah. The nurses know, and the people working in the doctor's office know. People working in the hospitals, they know. There's the chatter, the scuttlebutt. So if you have a nurse or you know a nurse in your family, that's the one to know. Like, okay, I'm thinking about you work at X hospital on this floor where you take care of post-operative, you know, whatever it is, post-operative spine surgery patients. Do you know Dr. So-and-so? Oh, he's great. You know, we love working with her or him. Great outcomes, da-da-da-da-da. Or, oh my, she's a nightmare and she's dangerous. I mean, the nurses know. Now, most people don't have that privilege of knowing a nurse. You used to be able to ask other doctors, and if you're fortunate enough to have a doctor in your family or a doctor that's a friend that you trust, they would probably know. But even that has changed so much because so many doctors don't really know each other the way they used to. If you got a referral from a doctor, in the past that was because that doctor knew the doctor they were referring you to, and they referred you there for a reason. Now, if your doctor refers you, it might be because they're in the same group and they're required to refer within the group. Or, you know, this happened in the Dr. Dunch cases. Like, doctors were referring their patients to him because he was being promoted within the hospital system. It's like, hey, we got this new hotshot surgeon, you should refer to him. So you can't always trust your doctor's referral, and I'm sorry to say that.
Ask the questions. Just do your own research.
Do your
As much
own
as you can.
research. Do your own research, but I'll tell you, it's so easy to put it on the patient to say, oh, well, patients just need to be more informed. Well, you know, I think of my Dr. Death clients so much who did their homework, and they were either actively misled because they saw information on the internet that was like, oh, look how many 5-star reviews Christopher Dunch has, and look at his beautiful new office, and look at all of these titles and designations that he has. And then the information that they really needed to know to keep him from killing them or maiming them was widely known to hospitals, to other doctors, to other nurses, to the medical community, but that was all
Tight-lipped.
so patients in that situation, extreme example, I understand, but literally lambs led to the slaughter because of the secrecy.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, and that's what most of your entire season 1 is about, is that case. So if you haven't, you know, watched season 1 or listened to season 1, you should really go back and do that, because I think that's pretty eye-opening.
Season 1 is about Dr. Death, but I'm never going to stop talking about Dr. Death, and I hope other people won't either, because not all cases make the news. And of course, that's an extreme example, but the problems that created all of those injuries and deaths, all the catastrophes, those problems existed for decades before Christopher Dunch was even born. And none of those issues have been dealt with. Even with the most extreme example, when everybody should have said, okay, enough is enough. We get it. We got to fix the problems. So I and others will die trying to change those problems, but we're never going to stop talking about it.